Hello and welcome to Your Health in Your Hands. I'm Dr. David Ajibade with the Brain and Body Foundation. As you know, the federal government has authorized and deputized and indeed mandated us, the Brain and Body Foundation, to address issues that are related to the brain and related to elderly people. As we mentioned, if you were on the show last time with Dr. Kunle Adedeji, that we're talking about some of the things that people tend to overlook in terms of their health, that with the passing of the years and the decades can actually come back and affect them majorly in their latter years. And some of the things he mentioned were things as simple as just maintaining your blood pressure, maintaining your blood sugar levels, cholesterol, taking the right nutrients, and we're going to go into that some more. These are all small things. And then do your regular checkups. I know not everybody can afford to do a full-blown medical checkup, but there are things that you should be aware of to be checking. For instance, if you are seeing blood in your stool, that's not a good sign. If your stool suddenly changes color and becomes darker, it may be a sign that there's something going on in your colon or your large intestine. That's maybe, and I'm not trying to scare you, but as you grow older, these things become more frequent. It may be a sign that of cancer or something else. So it's very important for your sake. You don't want to be a burden on your family. Of course, your family, your loved ones, they love you, but you need to do your part to ensure that you are taking control of your health, and the only way you can take control of your health is by being aware of these things. And that's why we're doing this show or these shows, so that people understand why taking such actions are important. And again, the actions include doing your regular checkups. If you can't do that, you want to make sure that you're taking the right kind of nutrients and avoiding the wrong kinds of foods, which we may talk about, and avoiding excess alcohol and smoking. As you grow older, those things will begin to affect you more and more. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome back to the show, Dr. Kunle Adedeji. Welcome, sir.
Good to be back. Thank you, Dia. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, bro. Good to see you. Okay, so that last time was fantastic. I mean, we were touching on a lot of things. I think we need to go into a little bit greater depth into the nutrients and what exactly what a balanced diet means, if at all there's any such thing as a balanced diet anymore. And let's really go into the specifics now. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I think we can start from balanced diet. I think when we were in primary school, they taught us what a balanced diet is, which is you eat protein, you eat vitamins, you carbohydrates, oil and fat is what they call it. We all run away from oil and fat now. But we have all that stated for us. We knew that's what we were supposed to take. So the real question is, where does that come from? How do you make sure that you have all these components in your diet? And if it's not in your diet, or if your body, for whatever reason, is using it much more than the average person, how do you replace that? So that's the first thing. So we want to know, what are we eating? If we were in a system where we can check all our food and see how much vitamins are in our food, then we have an easy job to do. But we know that our food all over Nigeria is diverse. So the food in Ekiti is different from the food in Enugu, is different from what you have in Taraba State. So we can go ahead and test every food and say, okay, we're going to test and see how much individual vitamins are in this food. So there are some that have been tested in the past, and we know vegetables have a lot of vitamins. So, but do we know how much, and how much are you supposed to eat to give you that amount? So we assume, for that reason, that it's good to take a supplement. It's good to supplement what you're taking, what you're eating, especially for the vitamins, which is the big one. And sometimes the oil and fat. So if we are taking, which was recommended to us even as children, I remember that growing up, they'll give us one multivite. We used to call it multivite every day. And there was
those
some
brown pills.
right. So there were some liquid ones that were sweet, and then there was, as you grow older, they change it to the little pills or capsules, which we didn't enjoy because it wasn't sweet. But even the more when you grow older. So when we grow older, so we're talking about elderly, we're talking about geriatrics. So when you grow older, you start losing a lot of things. You start losing muscle mass. You start losing the elasticity of your blood vessels. You start losing, even the size of the brain is smaller as you grow older. So many things. I mean, think about how many pumps your heart has gone through in 65 years, in 75 years. These are muscles, So there is wear and tear. Things starts to diminish. The bone starts to become thinner and weaker. So many reasons. So for example, calcium and vitamin D that you need for your bones, you may not need much when you're 20, 25 growing, but you're going to need a lot more when you're 65 and 70 and you're not going out as much in the sun. Now you begin to need a lot more vitamin D and you need a lot of more calcium. So since we are in a situation where we cannot check on these things on a regular basis, the safest thing to do is to supplement at the safest, quantity. Yes, we don't want you to have it too much, but like we know, too much is not as bad as too little. So even if you take too much, and I don't want it to sound like you cannot get too much, you can get too much.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
But you're safer supplementing, and your doctors should be able to guide you on this is how much you take to supplement if we're not able to test. In societies or systems where we're able to test, then you can say, okay, I have enough, I don't have to take. But if we can't test, then we're safer just doing those supplements. And if, as we grow older, the need for those supplements, it increases, the quantity or the amount that you need to take increases. And we can look at the different ones, like vitamin D, like you said, becomes very important for the bone, becomes very important for those of us that still have some hair follicles on our head. Vitamin D and vitamin C, you need to think about those things. Like we said last week, vitamin B12 and folic acid for dementia, for memory loss. That's very, very important.
Why is B12? Can you just give a quick brief overview? Why is B12 important for memory loss?
Okay, so one of the secondary causes, so we say secondary causes, some of the underlying things that may cause dementia is lack of vitamin B12. So when people do not have enough vitamin B12, they tend to have memory loss earlier than the normal, average populace. So one of the things we do in evaluating for dementia in anybody, the first thing you do is to check their vitamin B12 level. And you will be surprised how much you find. If somebody has B12 deficiency and they have dementia, and you replace the B12, it's one of the most, outstanding difference that you can see.
Really?
In a patient. It's night and day if it is due to the B12 deficiency. So that is very important, something as simple as that. And you can, if you don't know, you just let the person be. So what we want is not to let you lack that B12 to get to that point. Same thing with folic acid. The brain mass, the heart muscle. The heart muscle also is affected. You talked about homocysteine the last week. That is instrumental in brain function as well as in cardiac function. That's the heart function. So you want supplements like folic acid, to reduce that risk with homocysteine. So very simple, but if you don't know, there's nothing you can do about it. So the easiest way that you can, mitigate that is to take the supplements and prevent it. So,
okay, excellent. We're going to have to take a short break right now, Doc, and then we will be right back. Folks, don't go away. Okay, good.
Okay.
So we talked about vitamin B12 now. What do you want to talk about next?
What else do we have? What else do you?
Well, I mentioned potassium, but you didn't. You're not familiar with that one.
No.
You were talking about frozen foods and some of the bad practices. In fact, when you were talking about oils, I was going to jump in and say things like fried. Want to avoid. You want to start reducing your intake of these vegetables or oils. I don't know if you know this, but vegetable oils like ground oil and canola oil have been found to be actually toxic if you keep on, especially if you fry them at certain temperatures. Certain temperatures, they become very, very oxidative, cause a lot of free radical damage to the linings and even to the brain. So it's always recommended now that you reduce or even
reduce that
to things like olive oil,
olive oil.
Yeah. So I don't know if we can mention that really quickly, and then of course another thing is constipation. What's your? I know that's a big issue now. Problems with digestion with elderly people. Can we talk about that?
Okay.
How
you want to break it or just go ahead and go through everything? So we talked about oil. We talked about. I think I can say something about potassium as related to muscle mass being diminished, and in the elderly there is reduction in potassium level, and then if you're taking diuretic.
Welcome back. I'm here with Dr. Kunle Adedeji, and he is a geriatrician and he runs his practice in El Paso, Texas. The practice is called Kingsway Medical Center.
Kingsway Medical Center.
Kingsway Medical Center, and it focuses on geriatrics, which is the study and treatment of older people. Is that correct? What's the exact definition of geriatrics?
Geriatrics is the care of elderly people. So of elderly people, and we define that as anyone older than 65.
So 65 is the official age. But when do seniors start? When do people start getting all these breaks and all these discounts? Is this 65?
It's 65.
It's 65. Okay.
It's 65.
All right. So you have you're surrounded by a lot of wise people. In fact, that's for your patients. I'm sure you're learning a lot from them as well.
Oh yes. Oh yes. They teach more about these things than we know. So we learn from our patients.
Absolutely. So why we're talking so much about nutrients and nutrition, folks, is that and you've probably heard me talk about it as well, because the importance of the digestive system. There is so much that we're now beginning to find out how what goes on if you're in your gut, if it's unhealthy, how it affects so many systems in the body, including the brain, the cardiovascular system, including the lungs, the other parts of the body, the kidneys. If you don't get it right with your guts, if you think about it, your body, every cell of your body needs nutrients, and it needs oxygen, it needs specific vitamins and minerals to function properly. The way your body gets those vitamins and minerals mostly is through the gut. If the gut is unhealthy, it won't be able to digest, it won't be able to extract those vitamins and minerals and other nutrients, and it won't even be able to absorb them into the bloodstream and then send them to the tissues where it's needed. So a healthy gut is super, super, super important. And then, of course, you have to put the right nutrients in it. So we're always talking about the gut if you've seen our past shows. So we've talked about vitamin B12, we talked about vitamin D. I think we also need to talk about potassium.
talk about potassium.
Let's talk about potassium, and we'll talk about a little bit about constipation in the elderly as well.
Okay, so let's quickly touch on potassium. So as relates to the elderly, potassium, of course, is important for everybody, for heart function, for heart rhythm, the electrical functioning of the heart. That is very important. So as we grow older, we find that there's a lot of potassium in the muscles. As we begin to lose muscles, the potassium in the elderly also begins to drop. One of the other reasons for that is the fact that we have a lot of people taking diuretics, like Modiretic, and
they call them water pills or something.
Water pills. So they have blood pressure medicine, right? Where you urinate a lot. So when you urinate a lot more than the body wants to, one of the things you flush out is potassium. When you have diarrhea, for example, and you have a lot of diarrhea, one of the things you lose is potassium. So in addition to the fact that the potassium is already low, because the potassium is stored in muscles, right? So when you lose that muscle mass, there's not a lot of storage. And so the potassium level is down. And that can be dangerous for the body. So the targeted amount of replacement, and that's the difference between from potassium and the supplement we've talked about, that needs to be carefully, replaced. That it's not too much, it's not too little. Too little is bad, too much is bad. So, but we need to understand that happens in the elderly, and our colleagues should be able to help with that. As a simple test to do for that, to see that your potassium is normal. There's certain things that you are using that they know would cause that, and they should be able to help with, enlightening our elderly on the importance of low potassium and the replacement if it is needed. I think we mentioned a little bit about fat the last time. It is important to know, the kind of oil we use. Very, very important. And I'm sure you probably have an expertise in this more than myself, but I know that a lot of oil that we use in Nigeria and here, anywhere, that is not good for the body. And that is important that we talk about that, we know about that. We do a lot of fried stuff, and it's important to know which is healthy, which is not going to clog your gut, like you said, which is not going to escape from your gut into your blood vessel and clog the blood vessel, causing heart problems, causing dementia, because all these things, they build up, and they build up in the blood vessel, they end up causing these diseases of the elderly. The biggest one is dementia.
Right, and like we're saying during the break, that things like people will not like it when I'm saying this, but certain vegetable oils, mentioned canola oil, mentioned groundnut oil, and a few others. If they're at lower temperatures, it may not be that much of a problem. But once they start getting to be high temperatures, which is what happens when you fry stuff, plantain, all these other things, what happens is that they change their chemical composition and they become very, very reactive in the body, and they can cause very toxic chemicals. So the more you eat of this fried stuff, all these different fried foods, the more they're going to damage the lining of your blood vessels. They can also damage parts of your brain as well over time. So you want to start being aware of this. I always say, by the time you get to be 30 years of age, the honeymoon is over. Your body, that's when things begin to plateau out. And then by 40, you now begin to see the effects of old age. Really, by 40, that's when we know that our eyesight is not the same as it used to be. That's when sometimes we have sleep problems. Sometimes we don't have the same amount of energy that we used to have. But so just know this. And once you're over 30, you have no excuse. You have to now start taking responsibility for your age. So absolutely. Yes, fried foods, you want to avoid fried foods. But let's talk about constipation now, because that's a big thing among the elderly people.
Okay, constipation. I think it's
sorry, wait. Real quick, I just found out that the time has gone. Time has gone again. So we're going to take a short break now, and then we'll be back for the final thing. We're going to talk about constipation, but we also want to talk about other drugs that we need to be careful with the elderly. So we'll be right back, folks. So okay, so 217. It's another 8 minutes, 225. Yeah. So to 225. Okay. 125 your time. Oh no, let's just say we get 123.
Okay.
123 because I have to wrap up. So okay. 123.
Okay.
All right. All right. Welcome back, folks. I'm here with Dr. Kunle Adedeji, who is the Chief Medical Director of Kingsway Medical Center. We are talking about concerns of the elderly. All right, constipation.
Okay, so let's quickly delve into constipation. Constipation is a big problem with the elderly for numerous reasons. The biggest one is the fact that they're not moving around as much as they were moving before. So one of the way the intestine moves is because the body is moving. That stimulates the intestine and allows easy bowel movement. So that's key. They're not moving as much as before. Number two, they are not drinking enough water like they were drinking before. And there may be several reasons for this. The biggest one is the fact that they don't want to get up from the bed or the chair to go to the restroom. So that's a big one. So, and if they have things like incontinence, then the more that they don't even want to drink water. So because they just don't want to go to the restroom. So that's very, very important that we know that and encourage them that it's more important to drink water, go to the restroom, and that will allow, it will reduce constipation. Medication also is a big part in constipation. So pain medication, a lot of pain medication will cause constipation. We know that we have a lot of people with arthritis in Nigeria, a lot of people with joint pain, and they take a different kind of pain medication that will cause constipation. So what can we do? We increase our activities. We eat a lot of vegetables. We move around as much as possible, drink a lot of water.
Okay. And if in some cases you do prescribe some things to help move things along sometimes?
Yes. So there are fibers that you can use on a regular basis that would help with that. There are medications, different degree of medication. Some of them you can just buy them and use them. Some are called stool softeners. They just soften the stools, allow the stool to come out. Some of them are laxative. They would help move the bowel. So there are different types of medication, but they're simple.
So just real quick, just for caregivers, children of elderly people, you want to be aware of this. Ask your parents or grandparents or your wards, how long was the last time they stooled? If it's 2 days, 3 days, that's too much. So raise the alarm so that they can go to the toilet or do whatever it takes, or take the doctor so they can go to the toilet. It is not good for them to have this thing stuck in their gut. It can cause all kinds of problems. So I go ahead, Kunle.
No, absolutely. I'm just supporting. So it's good to know what they were doing before. Were they going 2 times a day before? If they were going 2 times a day before and all of a sudden it's once a day, then it's becoming, you need to know that if it's once in 2 days before, which is not good in its own, and now it's once in 3 days, then there's a problem. So we want to know what they were doing before. The best is if they are going every day, they go once a day. And if not, then people need to do at least. You need to do something about it. Encourage them. Tell your doctor. Have them drink more fluid. And vegetables that we have can also help with that.
All right. So drugs.
So let's. I think one thing I would like to pass across, and which will be mainly to our prescribers and caregivers. There's a lot of medications that we use as, young adults, 50s, maybe even early 60s, that are not good for the elderly and need to be looked at carefully. Something as simple as, what we call Piriton in those days. I don't know if it's available. It's considered not to be very safe for the elderly. So a lot of opioid pain medication that are all over the place in Nigeria now, tramadol, codeine, we need to know those things. And we need to know, even if it's prescribed, somebody needs to be there to make sure that it does not have any kind of effect on the elderly. Any new medication has to be taken seriously. Any new medication, somebody needs to be with our elderly when they take that medication for the first few days to make sure it's not going to cause a problem for them. There's a list called the Beers list. It's called Beers criteria, and it has a long list, hundreds of medication that are, dangerous for the elderly. And I think our colleagues can look at that, and they will see a whole lot of lists. Sometimes you're like, what is left for me to use? It's good to be aware of it, because sometimes you will still use it, but then you can give a good advice on what to expect. And
how do you spell it? Beers, B-A-E-R?
Beers, B-E-E-R, like the beer we drink.
Okay.
Beers criteria.
Okay.
So, and it's a long list of medication, and you can see and you can advise. And we need to do a lot more education in advising our elderly and their caregivers on the medications they take and side effects they may have.
Love it. Thank you so much. Time has flown by again. I hate it when this happens. But thank you so much. I just want to mention a few things about constipation. Sometimes it's actually because the digestive system, like you said, is not working like it should. Maybe not producing enough enzymes. Maybe having the wrong gut. So the gut bacteria may be deficient. The good, quote unquote, good gut bacteria may be deficient. Right. So enzymes, good gut bacteria, fiber, which is known as a prebiotic. These are all things that, as Dr. Adedeji mentioned, there are things that may be lacking may cause or contribute to constipation. If you want to know more about that, you can contact our office. We can give you directions. My staff will give you directions on how to get, especially enzymes and probiotics and prebiotics. We've done a lot of research and study to find out which ones work best for the African person. So reach out to our staff. I think you'll be able to find information at the end of the video. Of course, you can also watch all our videos that are archived on our website, brainandbodyfoundation.org. With that, unfortunately, we have come to the end. So, Kunle, thank you so much again for this time. I hope we can call upon you in the future. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dayo. Thank you for all you do for our people. Thank you.
And I appreciate your support too, as always. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, you've heard it. Have a good rest of the day. Remember to stay alert, stay healthy, stay strong, and stay tuned for next week, when we shall be back with some more valuable content, applicable content. See you. Take it. Bye. All righty.